Hello, welcome to another great demo and informational webinar from WiLS. I'm joined today by two folks from one of our longtime vendor partners, ABC-CLIO. On the line with me today, I've got Pamela Renfro and Paul Webb. And today's session, as you can tell by the title card, is geared towards our K-12 members, and it is all about getting the most out of your ABC-CLIO subscriptions. So I like to keep my introduction short, so I'm just going to pass things over to Pamela to take the wheel. Pam, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can start.
Absolutely, that sounds great. And thank you so much for joining us today. Let's see, when you did that, everything went away. Here we go. It changed, it moved around on me. I apologize. I'm going to get it together now. Here we go. You'll see my email and I'll get into the resources. So again, thank you all for joining us today. You've got two librarians with you, Paul and Pam. And what we wanted to do today is really showcase our resources and show you some of the new features that I really think are geared toward helping you as librarians help your patrons utilize the resources. So I'm taking it that everybody is seeing my screen right now. It's the first time I think I'm able to say to you that we have 17 databases. We had a launch of a new product last week. And so we're going to spend a few minutes showcasing all of the resources, and then we're going to dig deeply into one of the resources. And because all of our resources are organized in the same way. So I wanted to point that out. We'll dig deeply into one of them and really spend some time looking at the educator support sites as well. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is use that chat. And Paul is going to be monitoring the chat. So I'm going to try my best not to look at it. I'm going to let him take care of that and answer your questions there. And then Paul, if I need to revisit something to help answer a question, please stop me at any time. As I said, we have 17 databases, and it's the beauty of that is you can curate your collections around your needs of your patrons. And so looking at how you can best serve your students, you get to pick and choose what you subscribe to. We will in November spend the entire hour with you looking at our American Mosaic series, the African American experience, the American Indian experience, the newly added Asian American experience, and the Latino American experience. So I'd invite you to come back to that session. We'll really focus on how to utilize that in many different ways, including how that you can use those resources to work together with American History Database to really provide diverse voices. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about those today, but know that those are historical as well as cultural databases. I want to point out just a few unique databases that we have that I'd invite you to take a look at when you're looking at building your collections. Make sure you're taking a look at daily life through history. I think it's a really good engagement piece, especially if I believe for younger students, those middle grade students that often really need a connection when they're talking about history. They have a really difficult time understanding what life was like for the average person in a time period. And so when I'm going to open that one up, there's just a few I'm going to open up because I just can't hardly not do it as a librarian. And I've used this resource with students. So I just wanted to point out that although all of our databases are structured very similarly, the content varies. So with the daily life through history, you're going to see when I open up any of the topic centers, they're going to follow the same format. They're going to cover the same things. So with this daily life, it really looks at the structure of the family, what people did for work, what languages were spoken, what students did for their education. And I think back about my fifth grade boys, we're always wanting to know, did the boys my age have to go to school during this time? How did they learn? So there's some very interesting things here. Housing, they're always very interested in how people lived, how many people lived together, what kind of housing they had, and then entertainment and sports and games. So if you don't have this database, when you get ready to make new purchases, I would highly recommend you take a really close look at it. When you're in any of our databases, I wanted to point out, you can switch databases just by going through the listing here. I also want to point out modern genocide, very specific database. It's a very sensitive subject, but I think we do it very well. We really talk about causes and consequences. I know that many states are mandating Holocaust education. So I did want to point out this database. One thing that I think is very unique is that the contents for every genocide listed cover the same thing: the causes, the consequences, the perpetrators, the victims, the bystanders, and the international reaction. So again, you're going to get that continuity of having the same features in each of the we call these topic centers. So each of these tiles are going to have the same type of content that's covered. Additionally, we have two wonderful geography databases, and I think that they're very unique in the coverage. And both of them, we have a US and a world geography. Both of them have a theme of covering all geography concepts that are covered within the curriculum. So if you've got teachers that are looking for information on how to teach geography concepts themselves, this is a great database to have that. Also within world geography, then of course each country is going to be covered within each of the continents, and we'll do the same thing with the United States. It'll be regionally, and then each state is covered. But the same types of things are going to be covered, where we look at contemporary issues, landmarks, holidays, etiquette. And then I wanted to point out facts and figures within world geography, because I think this is a really outstanding feature that we have. Again, from past experience, my sixth grade students studied world geography. This was the only place that we could find this extensive list of facts anywhere. It's already pulled together. Of course, you can find them if you go looking in lots of places, but it's all pulled together. And again, my students, had certain requirements from their teachers to find certain things, and they could come in to ABC-CLIO and get that information very easily. So I wanted to point that out, because I do think that that is, of course, a great feature of ours. Additionally, World Religions is a fabulous database, covers all religions, not only how they began, but also it's going to cover contemporary type issues, modern practices, the fundamentals of that faith. And so it's a really nice database to put into your collection. I'm going to come back to all of the databases and point out, when you purchase your collection, of course, you can have those listed singly on your websites, but you also can put them together, which allows your patrons to search across all databases. So if we were to look at something like the Great Depression, the way it's treated in daily life would be very different than the way it's treated in pop culture. Pop culture is the last unique database I'm going to pop into before we start looking at what I consider to be core databases. But pop culture, icons, idols, and ideas really looks at the decades of the United States. So it's a great complement to that American history database. It's going to be a fabulous database for your humanities teachers. It looks at performing arts, advertising, fashion, transportation. It's a great database for project-based learning. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. So we're going to pop in to what I consider to be one of the core 4 databases. So I'm going to pop back to looking at all the databases, but want you to know that we consider when we talk about core databases, we look at the curriculum that is in high schools and those courses that are required for students to take in middle and high school or junior high and high school. And that would be American government, American history. And then we have divided world history into world history ancient and world history modern. And so those are what we consider to be the basics, the core that goes along with high school curriculums. For that reason, those databases have a couple of features that are not in the others. So I'm going to choose to open American government, and we'll look at those features as we go through. Now, all of our home pages are going to be designed the very same way, and you can probably tell I've already popped into a few. They all look very similar, and we do that for a reason, because we know students, get used to one thing. We want them to be able to pop into another database and use it without any issues. We feel like our databases are very intuitive and very user-friendly. So I did want to point out that with every database, there is a video on how to use the database. So I think that this is a great place to start. I get that question a lot from librarians. If I want to introduce this database, what would you do first? Well, the first thing I would do is have your students watch this tutorial. It's, I think, about 4 minutes in length. And each database has a specific tutorial. And they're going to follow, kind of the same outline. So once a student understands one database, they can very easily move into the others. Every database has, of course, a search bar. We're going to come back to that. We have our themes that are broken into topic centers. And then I want to focus for a few minutes on this academic success corner, because there are some new content here that to me is very specific to what you do as librarians. This academic success corner is the same in every database, with the exception of CLIO View, which is a way to gather statistics. And that CLIO View is in certain databases like the American Mosaics. I believe there's one in Daily Life, and there's one in American Government and World Religions. So where we have a lot of statistics to compare across different states. So you can dive into that. But otherwise, the academic success corner is going to be the same. And from looking at the topics, this is exactly what we do as librarians, right? So I'm going to pop these open. And the initial thought here was that students are going to be working in our databases independently. And we all know students, they wait till the last minute. It's 3 a.m. and they are trying to begin their research paper because their topic selection is due. And we wanted to provide them with some really good support when the librarian and the teacher were not around. But what we found is that our librarians and our teachers have latched onto these. They love them. And so they are utilize them in instruction, which is wonderful. So I invite you to come back later and take a look at these. If you're working with students on how to evaluate websites and sources, I highly recommend this evaluating sources. It goes through the CARS method. And they add a lot of humor. You can tell from the title, the two-headed alien falls in love with the farmer. So they're really geared toward that middle and high school students' humor. But I wanted to point out, we just added 3 new videos here. Again, these videos are short, basically, I think around 5 minutes in length, on searching. So 3 different new videos, and we have lesson plans to go with each of these, and they're in Educator Support. We'll go there in just a little bit. I'm going to pop into the information literacy next. This is a brand new content. In fact, this is the first time I've shown it to anyone. This really talks about confirmation bias, misinformation, disinformation, and there are worksheets right here to go with each one of them. So great lesson plans for you, the librarian, or for you to pass on to educators that would cover these topics. We really value inquiry. And we're going to delve into a topic center in a moment, and you're going to see how much we at ABC-CLIO value the inquiry process. And we've prepared activities to go along with teaching content and teaching skills. And I wanted to point out, these are the skills that we have chosen to focus on: summarization, defining, describing, classifying, analyzing, interpreting, evaluating, and arguing. So those are the skills that are going to be included in activities and topic centers. Lastly, primary sources. I think primary sources are one of the reasons a lot of us became librarians. We love looking at pieces of information from the past. And so I wanted to point out there's brand new content here as well. Put in maybe just a couple of weeks ago, 2 new videos on why work with primary sources and how to analyze primary sources. Remember, in researching, there was a video on the differences between primary and secondary sources. So a lot of good content you can pull together there. And I wanted to point out we have 12 different analysis guides. So I was always using the ones from the National Archives or the ones from Library of Congress, but I really like ours. I think that they dig really deeply into the type of content that it is and what was being the purpose behind the production of that primary source. So I wanted to point, these are downloadable, ready to go for you to use, and they're very easy to use when you do searches for specific types of content through our searching. The last thing I want to show you on the homepage, and then we're going to dig in, is the research list. And the research list is really a unique way for you to curate content. If you know that there is a project being conducted within a class, a research paper, or some type of project, or maybe when we're getting close to election day, you want to put together a list about elections. You can do this very easily. I'm going to show you before we leave today a tutorial on how to do that. But just remember that they're going to be displayed on the bottom of the homepage of the database where the information is collected. So know that that is available there for you. So let's dig into a little bit of looking at the searching feature here. I just wanted to point out that you can do an advanced search. So with the advanced search, I wanted to point out the types of content that you might find within ABC-CLIO databases, because I think we're really granular. We put that content into 4 different categories: general resources, media, documents, and topics and activities. So these are the topic centers, and we're going to dig in to one of those in just a moment. The other types of content, you might be looking for a timeline for your students, or you want to find, I love facts and figures because it's information that is in a table format. Or you may be looking for primary sources. So everything in documents is a primary source. And then items in the media section, some of those are going to be primary sources as well. But I did want to point out that we are adding more and more infographics. So you're going to see that. We know that students learn very well from infographics. And so we're adding more and more of those. So there's many ways you can use our searching. You can put in a search term and then filter. You can filter from the beginning. You can choose, maybe you've decided, you really want to focus on letters and narratives and cultural documents with your students, and maybe even speeches. And you can put in the type you're looking for. And then you can look for, within that, you can look at a content type. So maybe we are looking for those within the subjects of rights and liberties. And so you could come in and do a search for that. And here I found 63 different items that met the category that I put in. So I'm going to open one of those up and just show you that I wanted to point out the tools we offer with every resource that you open. Especially when you do a nice search like this and you open up an item, your students, you can, drop that link into your learning management system, or however you get information to students, you can provide that link where they can come right in. And when they do that, they're going to get not only the letter, but they're going to get the features that we have, like being able to listen to the letter, being able to translate the letter into a different language. And many of our languages, you can translate it into a different language, and then you can listen in that language. So those are really good support tools for your students. You'll also notice on the bottom of my screen this accessibility feature. And this is with all of our resources. If when you are in your resources, you don't see that, that is something you can turn on in the admin site. And we'll get to that at the very end. If I forget, Paul, you remind me to show where you can turn that on. But I wanted to point out that with our resources, when you do a search, of course, you're going to get full citations, and you get a lot of extra content. We know that students will do one search and then move on. So we want to provide a lot of content for them once they're in. So with this letter and narrative that we have, I'm going to have a reference article about women in government. I have biographies about women. I have a glossary of a term, First Lady, if they might not know what that means. I also have some audio and video and quotes. So we try to really provide a wealth of information with opening one item. We want to make sure that we address what the student is really looking for. So again, I can do a search from any page. Maybe I want to look at elections, and I can do a search from any page that I'm in. Whoops, sorry. And when you get your results here, I have over 1,200 results. That's too many. I can go into filtering at that point. So I can choose the specific type of information I want. So you can filter on the front end by doing advanced searches, or you can do a general search and then filter after. So if you have any questions about those search features and the filters we offer, please feel free to put that in the chat. So now let's talk for a minute about topic centers. So we're talking about looking within themes. So American government is very theme-based. You can look at all of the themes by clicking Show All. Many of our databases are based on chronological order. So like American history, world history, ancient, those are going to be in chronological order. So it depends on, and even our American mosaics are in chronological order. I'm going to open up the Foundations of American Government, and we're going to look at topic centers. So to me, the topic centers are ready to use resources. So if you're working with a teacher, or you have been tasked with teaching content, know that ABC-CLIO editors have prepared things for you, so you are ready to go. And so you've got within this theme of the Foundations of Government, we have sub-themes, and then each one of these tiles are what we call topic centers. When we were looking at this advanced search, remember we had topic centers and activities. The activities are found within the topic centers. So I'm going to open up one of those, and then I'm going to open up the roots of the U.S. government. I feel like that if you're studying American government right now within the curriculum, this is probably about where you are in the time period of September. So here we have the same structure of this topic center is in every one of our database topic centers. The difference between this and the topic center that I opened, say from World Geography, is that the topic essentials are video based. So back to those core four, American government, American history, and the two world histories, we have, instead of having articles here and text-based materials, these are going to be video-based instruction. So with this video-based instruction, it's really a time saver for teachers. They can use all of them or just choose to use one of them. They're going to sometimes feature the instructor's face. They will have many primary sources. They're just loaded with primary source documents. They are closed captioned, so I can turn on the closed captions for that. They're going to have bullet point items as it goes through. Those bullet point items are what we call the outline. And the outline and the full transcripts are given here. One thing I should add is that you see with this view, I'm logged in with educator credentials. I see an add button that's going to let me add those to a research list, and your students will not see that view. It also shows me a curriculum guide, and those are because I'm in as an educator. Additionally, we have keywords, vocabulary, questions, and we have a self-checking quiz. So this quiz is meant for your students to take independently to see if they really grasp the content after they've read the overview article and they have watched the videos. Then do they know the content well enough to move into the activities which are inquiry-based? Each of these activities has everything that you will need to move forward to teach this. So the question is here. There are actually 3 activities with this. We're going to look just at this first one that deals with political philosophies that shaped the United States government. We always have a primary source you can use for a hook. And then we have the inquiry question. What political philosophies shaped the foundation of American government? And then we have understand the question. So this may be something a student is doing independently. So if so, we're going to make sure we let them know the skill we're working on, which is summarization. We have clarifying questions. We include the video on summarization, and then we give them more vocabulary and more background information. Again, everything can be listened to. Everything can be translated. So we really try to support student learning. We provide a text set of information. So this one is very visual in that it has 2 videos and an infographic and a facts and figures and a reference article. So I'm going to open up a facts and figures since you haven't seen this and show you that facts and figures are often information in a table format. So another skill that educators are often, working toward is teaching a student to really read this table. Wanted to point out that any source that is included in a text set with an activity has context and things to consider from our editor. So it tells them, read this and think about these things, or notice these things, consider why. So it really prompts the student to think. And then each of these has what I call a graphic organizer that is it can be downloaded, and it becomes a PDF fillable form where they actually gather the information and create a response to the inquiry question. Also, each of the topic centers has a topic library. We know that not every student is great at searching a database. So what our editors have done is pull in 82 of the best resources that we have in this database about this topic. Now, it's not all that we have, but it's what they feel like would be best support teaching this. And again, it can be filtered. So you can utilize this in any way that you'd like. You could use this to actually build your research list. It's a good place to start. Then there's a curriculum guide. So with that, I'm going to move from what we call the student database, where all the content lives, into the Educator Support site, where I'm going to show you some wonderful features you may not be aware of, and show you some tutorials that you can use to learn more on your own, and some slide decks that you can use to train your educators. I'm going to make this just a little bit larger so you can see it better. And then because I was logged in with educator credentials, I came in very easily without being putting in a username and password. If when you try this, it prompts you for a username and password and you don't have that, just contact Jeff and he will get with Paul and they'll give you your credentials so you'll be able to get into the Educator Materials. So we have two sites. We have the student database and then we have a support site for all of our databases that's going to provide additional materials for librarians and educators. So since I was in a topic center, I came in by clicking on that curriculum guide button. It brings me in to where I was. This is a mirror of that in that it has the same structure. I'm in Foundations of American Government. I am in Origins of the American Government. I have a video for me, the teacher, on how to teach this content. And then I have the key questions. I have the activities, and this is where if you need to print the activity in a packet, and you want to give that to a student where it's all together, the transcripts of the videos, everything is there, you would do that here. I have the answer key to the quiz in case I want to give that as an assessment. So all of that is readily available in the Educator Support site. Now, if you were in as a student, let me pop back here, and you just wanted to come in and see what the Educator Support site was like, the top right will get you right in and it will bring you in to the home page. So the home page of our database, our Educator Support site, is going to always feature some new items. Take a look at that. We're really featuring primary sources in September. It has where you can sign up for some free training. Webinars by School Library Connection are here. Also, you can sign up for training with me and Paul. These are 20-minute, very targeted trainings. They're free. And if you just click on that, it'll give you the full catalog for the year and you can register for whichever ones you'd like. If you want to see what content was updated in August, this is just a sampling. It is not all of our content, just a sampling of that. So that's on the home page. And then you have 3 areas. I'm going to go through those quickly in the time we have left. Under Curriculum Resources, that's where you're going to find those a ready-made research list, lesson plans, that type of thing. So you can choose your database. So I'm going to choose American History. We'll pop out of American Government and come into American History. I have state standards correlations here. I have my research list here on the left. I can search for in different ways. So you may find that educators would rather come into the Educator Support site to begin their lesson planning. And so they can search by topic. They can also search by time period. So these are the same time periods that we have within the student database. So if they know they're studying a specific time period, they can come in that way. They also can come in by looking at planning resources, such as curriculum guides, key questions, research list. There are ready-to-use lectures in American history and world history modern. In different databases have different features. So Daily Life and the Mosaics all have bell ringer activities that are used at the beginning of a classroom session. So a lot of things that you can find there. Now, I do want to come back and point out these academic skill lessons are the ones that are match that academic success corner that we talked about. So if you are tasked with teaching how to avoid plagiarism, here is a lesson plan for you. Complete everything you need to teach this topic. It matches the video that's in the academic success corner. So these 15 academic lessons are found in each of the database Educator Support sites. So regardless of what you subscribe to, those lesson plans in that category of academic skills are going to be found. Now, I wanted to feature just a moment the activities. You know, we walked through one activity, but I want to focus on literature. As librarians, We are very much want to promote literature not only in our literature courses. We want our social studies teachers to showcase those in their instruction as well. So you're going to see within many of our databases, you're going to find what we call literature connections. And the best way to find those, I think, is to come into the Educator Support site first. So here we have a listing. There are 13 novels that are featured in American history. And so once you choose the one that you'd like, so I'm going to open up The Grapes of Wrath. I remember reading that in high school. We are going to be working on the skill of analyzing. There is a literary analysis given. This is the educator guide if I want to actually see the activity. And the activity is in the student database. So we have just kind of an overview of it here. If I want to see it in the student database, I would just click here and go back. I can also download the entire activity, but I have a full synopsis here. And again, you'll notice our materials are very brief and to the point. So, I mean, we could give pages and pages and pages on the historical context of the Grapes of Wrath. But again, we're working with middle and high school students. So we want to give them what they need to know and then allow them to dig deeper if they'd like to. So that you're going to be working on plot, theme, tone, and mood. So we have worksheets for each of those and a text set of information to help the student answer these questions. So really good feature to really bring in, tying in literature to history. So I'm going to come back to the home page and let's take a look at some additional resources for you, the librarian. And that would be professional development. So I know that you're often tasked with finding your own professional development or promoting topics within social studies. So we have two sections within professional development. One is ideas and perspectives that really deal with topics of social studies, like identity and equality. And then we have ideas that really kind of cross all areas of the curriculum under the section called teaching and learning. So these are things that everyone will be working on: information literacy, equity and inclusion, and research and inquiry. And those are the three base categories. So I'm going to open up research and inquiry and showcase that you can switch topic pages. So you can see how many different topic pages there are here on strategies, student choice and voice, questioning. So here in this one, we're talking about really how to build a culture of inquiry. And there is a webinar you can watch from some social studies leaders as well as library leaders. There are videos, articles. Sometimes you'll find lesson plans that can be used within the classroom or the library. Some of these articles are really geared toward you, a librarian, and some are geared toward the classroom and library collaboration. So we know how important that is. So these are wonderful resources that are just really a value add to your collection, knowing that you have these topics that are included. Hot topic right now, we're all interested in equity and inclusion. So here, this page that's featured today is on inclusive instructional practices. There are two novels. These are young adult novels that are included here. And the wonderful thing about these, there are lesson plans that go along with those novels. And they really utilize your ABC-CLIO database subscription. So the activities will include items that you can use that are in your databases. So it really shows the connection between literature and history. So wanted to point those out. Again, with each of these, don't fail to use that drop-down menu because there's more and more there for you. So there are two things I want to show you and then we'll wrap up. One, I told you I would let you know where this little accessibility feature is. That is going to be in your admin center. You will need admin credentials to get in there. So usually one person at each institution has admin credentials, but it would be under account preferences. This is where you set what citation style you want to show. On your homepage, do you want all of the themes to show at once, or do you want, like I had it, where it's in a carousel? How many search results do you want in a page? And then you can enable or disable this accessibility support feature. So I wanted to point that out to you. Research list, another thing you can have supported or not. And this is also where you find your usage statistics. The last thing I want to point out to you, I think, is probably one of the most useful things, probably of all the things I've shown you today, is under using the database. And we're going to end with that. Again, you'll have a drop-down menu of all of your choices. And so I'm going to pop in just for fun. I'm going to pop into World History Modern. And you're going to see some video tutorials here. Those video tutorials are created with you in mind. So the one I showed you at the very beginning on the homepage of the database was created with students in mind. So this is on the Educator Support site. So everything here is for you. So this is a video specifically about World History Modern. There is a video on how to create a research list. It's not difficult to do. There are a few little things that make it, you know, you need, I was not successful the first time, I will say that, but keep at it. It does ask you for a password to protect your list, and you can be anything, and it doesn't have to be tricky. It can be like 3 or 4 letters. So it's, you know, doesn't have a lot of specifics to it. But once you learn how to do it, it's super easy. And so I always like to point you to this video because you can start it and stop it and build your list very easily from that. Then there's a tutorial on the Educator Support site. So, you know, I'm at the end of your day, you're probably exhausted, you may not remember what I say, but remember that there's a video to help you. And there are 2 very helpful guides here. One is a content index. So it's a I think it's a 1-page document that kind of has the table of contents of this database. And then there's a user guide. So very helpful, something you might want to print out and laminate and have in your bank of computers or on your websites, however you support students with that type of thing. Lastly, under tutorials and trainings, we know that as librarians, you are often tasked with teaching teachers how to use a database. So for each of our databases, there is an onboarding slide deck. So it uses Google Slides, it has speaker notes, and it will have options if you want to stop and do activities. You can use the entire slide deck, or you can pick and choose the items that you would like to use. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. Again, that is under using the databases in the Educator Support site. And remember, you will need credentials to get into the Educator Support site. And it's very easy to navigate within all of the resources. You'll have a drop-down menu of your subscription, and then you can very easily go back to the student database, the homepage, easily back and forth between Educator Support and the student database. So I don't see that we have had any questions, but this is a good time to ask questions about any of our databases specifically, or about the structure of the databases themselves. So I'm going to open that up. I'll keep my screen up in case I need to demonstrate anything to you. And if you'd like to unmute yourself to ask questions, feel free to do that. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Jeff, I'm going to stop sharing and bring that back to you if you have any closing comments.
Well, I will say thank you so much for that excellent and in-depth overview of the resources. I think that ABC-CLIO has got some of the best-in-class resources for our K-12 library, so I'm really thrilled to be able to share what our members can do with it, or with any of these products. And I'll remind, everyone watching this already knows this, but I'll remind them that, if you see something that you're interested in learning more about, reach out to me or anybody at WiLS. We'll put you in touch with Paul or Pam. If you're looking for a quote, I think trials, any of that kind of stuff, we're happy to help arrange so that people can learn more and maybe provide some of these resources to their faculty and students.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting us, and we look forward to being with you again. I believe our next session's in November, where we'll dig into those mosaics.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much again, Pamela, and thank you to Paul as well. And thanks to everyone who attended, whether you're here live or watching the recording. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.